Welcome to another edition of the Dementia Care Partner Talk Show. Now, here's dementia care expert Teepa and your host, Greg Phelps.
Hello and welcome to the Dementia Care Partners podcast. My name is Greg Phelps, and joining me as usual is dementia care expert Teepa Snow. And I recently came across a TV series on hoarding, and I was quite surprised that many hoarders were seniors. I don't think this is a normal part of aging. What's going on here? Is this an endeavor to maintain a sense of control? What are we doing with hoarding?
Yeah, hoarding is this really huge phenomena that, yeah, I remember, and what is it on one of those channels where it's like the true life thing where they go in and the place is a mess and they tear everything up and they try to fix it real quick. They go and do that fix, and it's like, oh, well, if the person is living with brain changes, this could get really interesting really fast. And what we think currently, there's several groups that are looking at this really carefully. What we're uncovering is that often people who are starting to amass things, and many of them have no value. Some of them have been doing it a long, long time, but it wasn't extreme. And now it's getting more extreme. Others didn't. I mean, they always took the trash out. They always took their, I mean, if they were incontinent, they would have cleaned up, washed it, put it away. They always used groceries when they got them, and when they weren't any good, they would be able to pay their bills. They would be able to do those things, and now they're not. And they didn't have a history of mental health issues. So, I mean, some people have had long-term mental health issues and problems with family, and some this is relatively new and it really kicked off. So we've got two categories. Then we have third group that nobody knows what to do with because these are always people who lived in an interesting way and it's just sort of part of who they are. So, what do you do with that? They love found things. They do things with them. They create things, and um, we think that's different than hoarding. And yet, sometimes people who do that could be, depending on the person who's looking at it, be deemed a hoarder. So, hoarding has become a big issue because as our numbers of folks living alone in a diverse community, whether it's an apartment or whether it's a house, we're starting to recognize, ooh, ouch, things are not getting managed the way they used to. And typically, it's people who care more about control than people who want to be connected. Because in many of these situations, these folks won't let anybody in their house. They have actually blocked access for months or years. And interestingly enough, many of these folks will also collect animals, some stuffed, but some real animals. And they become the person who has those animals, is trying to care for them, not caring for them well, um, but feeling like, well, people won't take care of them. I'll take them in. So they hoard animals as well as objects and things and found items. So, Greg, from your perspective, if you were living next door to that human being, what's some of your concerns? Because I mean, they're real life concerns. What are some of your concerns?
Well, it would likely affect property values. It would likely
Ah,
attract vermin. It would likely, do all sorts of. I'm thankful I haven't had to experience. I've had a lot of experiences. I'm thankful that's not one of them because
yeah,
usually by the time it gets to the stage where something needs to be done, the city or somebody's involved, and there's a timeline, and then it really
yeah.
goes to hell in a handcart.
It does because for this human being, it's an incredible dangerous threat to have somebody, and yet for people who are living with the brain changes of dementia, in addition to this pattern of behavior, holding on to a timeline, holding on to the expectations, being able to know that, yes, they've received notices and this is actually what happens, and being able to tolerate. So if I react strongly and I grab things and I pull them out of your hands and I threaten to hit you, and obviously we're going to end up with an admission, an involuntary admission somewhere. And then people tear my house apart and I come back. Well, here we go again. So now, where will I go? And so part of what's really driving trying to figure this out is where will we house these people? quite honestly, because you haven't fixed or dealt with what caused me to collect these things. So where you put me, guess what's going to happen again? Wherever that housing is.
Oh, you'll probably start collecting things innocently
Yeah.
enough. It'll be the jam, the peanut butter, and it'll be
The trash, the incontinence briefs. I mean, not cleaning up, because part of it is it gets so overwhelming. The environment's so overwhelming. People are not cleaning either. And yet trying to get someone in to do that cleaning, if they aren't trained in how to do this and when and what to do, it can escalate things back to a situation where we're looking at another psychiatric incident. We're looking at another frustrated, angry person, or um, a person that's devastated to the point where they give up surviving, because it's what's the point? If we look at the environment, we also may want to look at the person. How well are they maintaining themselves? How well are they maintaining their weight, their health? How well are they maintaining relationships? And the answer is, well, they aren't. So the hoarding is a symptom of what's going on. It's not the thing that's going on, which is most concerning to me as a human that does a lot with brain change, because I think we're focusing is on the environment. And what we need to do is switch to the person, the shareholders, the health, the brain health, the the things that people spend their time doing, and start where they are, not start where we wish they were. And we wait way long to get started on this, and we want it to change, and yet we haven't done anything to support a change. Moving them out of the environment, guess what? It'll happen again. Try to change their environment without realizing why they do what they do. We're going to be right back where we were. So, or worse. So for
but
me, it's a
you,
deal. It's a deal, Greg.
you've done hundreds of videos on various subjects. Probably haven't done one on this one yet because I don't know where a person would start. You're hoarding all
Yeah.
sorts of information in your brain. You need to share that with us.
Yeah,
So
I'm hoarding. I'm hoarding all of it. I think historically there was one I did for one group, because it was a hoarding task force and they asked me for to talk about dementia, and I did. But I would have to go and find that. That's a very interesting question, because I have been part of a task force and I'm always that weird voice that's like, well, let's look at the possibility of a brain change like dementia impacting. And they're all like, well, we have to deal with it. It's like, yeah, I know it's so hard to think, yeah, we got to deal with that first before we can deal with anything else. And yet the brain changes matter. So yeah, maybe a webinar, maybe a program anyway.
it's always fun to stick your hand up and be the one that goes, now, just wait a minute.
I know. Yeah, it's my job a lot, is to go, ooh, hang on there. Cause I think we need a really different approach to this, because I think you've been doing what you've been doing for a while, and tell me what's happening. Oh, same thing. Hmm. Maybe it's time to try something really, really different, like seeing the person and what they're doing as making sense to them, and then trying to figure out, okay, so I've got to start where you are, because I can't start where I'd like you to be because you're not there. Yeah.
Teepa, thank you very much.
Thank you, Greg.
You've been listening to the Dementia Care Partners podcast, brought to you by Positive Approach to Care. For more information, go to teepasnow.com.